This video is about me trying to get a landscape moonset shot. In this case, I want to get a full moon setting behind the transmission towers in the Tucson Mountains. I've never done this kind of a shot before, so I thought I'd just walk any beginners through how they might do something similar if they want to do that. I'm using the photographer's ephemeris or a photo ephemeris. I'm using the web app portion of that. I've went into the settings and set up for metric distances. I have set my local time to Phoenix, which is MST without daylight savings time, and I've set the date at September 2nd, 2020, which is the day I want to get the shot, which is very near a full moon. I've set the maps to the open cycle map. I've done that because this purple area here on the right is the Pima County Loop bike path, which runs along the Santa Cruz River. It's got some elevation, so it seemed like a good place that I could get the photo without trees and other things in the way. So when you bring this up, and I've zoomed the map into the area of interest, there'll be a red pin here, which is where you want to be located. There's some lines here with color coding, which correspond to these boxes down here. So for example, this yellow line going off to the right is the sunrise angle. This dark thick line is the moon set. That would be moon setting at 0 degrees elevation. Then there are some other lines. For example, this light gray line, if I change the time, it shows me the angle of the moon from my pinned location. So I'm going to take this pin, I'm going to set it somewhere on the bike loop out here. The transmission towers in the Tucson Mountains are located just here, a little below and left of center. So now I hit the black pin, and the black pin you place at the object you want in the photo, at the landscape object. In this case, I'm going to move it out onto this road in the Tucson Mountains. And now I have a line between my observation location and the transmission towers in the Tucson Mountains. So once you have your two pins set up, you get some useful information. You get the distance between the pins here at about 8.9 kilometers. You get the elevation difference between your place where you want to take the picture and the object that you want in the picture, and that is about 600 meters. And then there's an elevation difference between the two pins of 3.82. So I now know that this is going to happen before the moon set, which will be an elevation of 0. I know it's going to be prior to that, and I know I want to move my timeline here so that the moon is about 3.8 degrees in elevation. And so I'll be looking at the numbers on this grayish box here, which is the moon. And let's see, I want to get about 3.8. So this tells me that the moon, from this pin location, the moon is going to be along this bearing here, which is not where I need to be to get the towers in the picture. So I'm going to take and move my pin in a few locations along the bike path and try to refine it. So what I'm trying to do now is get the light gray line and the line between the two pins coincide with the moon elevation at about 3.8 degrees or so. And then my elevations are refined as I move along here, so it's looking like the new elevation angle is about 3.5. Move it right about in there. It doesn't have to be too precise because you're going to have to move around once you get to the location. So now I need to move just a little bit more, get them to coincide. So right there. So I know that I'm going to get the picture along the bike path, and it's going to be about where Prince Road intersects with the bike path. So I'm in this little area of the loop, and I went out and scouted it. I have a clear view of the towers, so this location should work. And the bike path is roughly perpendicular to this line to the tower, so it'll be easy to walk back and forth along this loop to adjust the tower position relative to the moon, because you're not going to get this perfect. Now, I also know when the moon is about 3.5 degrees, it's going to be about 5:56 a.m. So just before 6 a.m., I'll be getting the pictures. A couple other things you can get since I know the distance between the pins here, I can calculate how much I have to walk along this path to move the towers about a half degree, which is the diameter of the moon. And so at a distance of 9.76 kilometers, I calculated that a half degree corresponds to about 85 meters. So just under, let's say 2/3 of a football field, I would have to walk in either direction, and that would move the towers one moon width. So I get an idea now when I get close of how much I'll have to walk, because once that moon starts getting close to the towers, this whole thing is going to be over pretty fast. So I've got a nice long area that I can walk back and forth here. I've got a clear view, and I know my time. I've got the elevation set pretty much corresponding to the elevation difference between where I'm taking the picture and the towers in the Tucson Mountains. So all I have to do is show up and be ready to walk a little bit to get this picture. So here's the picture I obtained. It's a crop from my 400 millimeter telephoto. My timestamp on the camera is 5:53, which is pretty close to the time I predicted. It all worked out nicely. And Miriam, who is far more artistic than me, got this nice picture. She moved off, centered the moon on the main cluster of the towers, and had the foresight to put a palm tree just being lit a little bit by the sun starting to rise in the east. Got two nice pictures, and everything worked out just as we would have liked. I appreciate you watching this, and if you haven't done this kind of thing before, I hope I gave enough information that you can easily figure out what to do and go get your own moon set or moonrise landscape shots. Thanks. Bye.